Hi, you've clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Monday. Here you're looking at the final winter temperatures for this winter. Very cold in the eastern United States. I was telling you a couple weeks ago about 1989 being one of the only analog years that I could really find since 1950 that even tried defying the warm La Nina pattern in the east along with this winter. I've been looking back at some of those analogs and I found some similarities in another year that I hadn't really seen before. If we look at the temperature pattern from 1955, more neutral in the east. At first glance, certainly doesn't look very similar to this winter. You got cool back in the southwest, and not really cold in the east. December 1954 was actually interesting, as it was cooler in the east, again pointing towards that pattern where it starts out cool in the east and then reverses later in the winter, making it warmer overall. Though of course this winter we didn't reverse until way late, right at the tail end of the winter, so it remained quite cold for most of the winter here. First time that that's really happened during the La Nina year that we know of in recent memory. But 1955 is kind of interesting. If we look at the 500 millibar anomalies for this year, not really surprising that it's been cold in the eastern United States here given the pattern. If we now look at 1955, the winter here, notice the similarities. Notice this big negative out here east of the United States, and then the ridge to the north over here, negative NAO over here. Of course, the reason that this winter has been a lot colder as you got more high latitude ridging up here overall, which has been able to send more cold shots down underneath the block, and therefore you got a really frigid winter over here in the eastern part of the country. But 1955, pretty similar over here in this area of the world, with this dipole pattern of warm up here and cold down here in terms of the 500 millibar anomalies. If we now look at the summer temperatures of 1955, warm across the north and the northeast and cooler across the south and the Gulf Coast, and we immediately say uh-oh, because that kind of a pattern leads to a 500 millibar pattern that looks like this during the hurricane season of 1955. Core of low heights near the southeastern U.S., ridging over the south shore of Hudson Bay, and strong baroclinic zone over here near Iceland, giving rise to convergence and high pressure over the North Atlantic that doesn't allow storms to recurve as often, and this kind of a pattern ended up with this kind of hurricane season. 5 storms making landfall along the U.S. coastline, 2 of them major, even though this season only had 12 storms overall. So this kind of a thing is just something to look at in terms of tying the hurricane season into the winter. If you look at all these things, if we look at 2011, how weird the La Nina has been, try to look at years like 1989 and to some extent 1955 that were sort of weird along with this winter. Look at what happened during those winters, see the similarities in the patterns, and then look what happened during those summers. Might give us some sort of a keys to what may happen this year and what pattern can arise from that. Of course, some of the differences this year from 1955 are that our La Nina is much weaker here going into the spring and may reverse to a more of a neutral state, possibly even a warm state, as we head through the hurricane season. So we'll have to deal with that as time goes on. 1989 is a better analog in that regard, as it reversed to more neutral during the summer. So just interesting things to look at as we close in towards the hurricane season. It's almost April now, pretty soon it'll be May, and we'll start looking for random invests out there. We've already had our first one out here in the northeastern Atlantic. I didn't blog about it, but we had it over here, just some random subtropical entity, and we had something in the southern Atlantic as well. But we'll continue watching these, and we'll see if we can work out what the pattern's going to be like this summer. As I've been hinting at, less numbers overall than last year, not going to be as favorable of a year for a mega year with 19 named storms. That's not going to happen. Probably more in the range of 14 to 16 storms overall, and more threat to the U.S. coast though. We're kind of overdue for some hits now. Probably more like 2008, aimed more this way than out to sea right away. It'll depend a lot on how favorable conditions are out for the Cape Verde season, but we'll get there as we see what evolves during May. May is a big month for looking at the hurricane season to see what's going on in the North Atlantic during that time. So we still got some waiting to do, but we can look at some of these analogs in the meantime and try to get some clues out. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.